All right, ladies and gentlemen, the winner of the 14 Hands Winery Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies was the inspiring Songbird. Could not have won more easily. We're joined now by Rick Porter. And Rick, would you introduce for us the gentleman on your right?
Tom is my agent for Fox Hill Farm and has been for quite a while. And he's the guy that's picked out all these good horses. And he definitely picked out a good one here.
I would say so, and we'd like to hear more about that story in a few minutes. But first, we want to just get your reaction to the race. I mean, Mike wasted very little time getting to the lead. Tell us how you saw it.
Well, from the 10 hole, we knew we had to get a good break. And she jumped at, Mike said, you know, she always has been jumping her first 3 races. And he said, this was the longest jump she's ever made. So he was able to get good position in that first turn, and that was the key. And he slowed him down pretty good. He's a great guy, and he loves this horse.
And I assume it's safe to say you were very confident coming into this race based on her performances out in California, but just tell us about your expectations and how she met them today.
Well, I knew we had the best horse going in, and but the problem is I've had the best horse in races before, and I'm still upstairs, or wherever I was. But I was, you know, confident, but I always know that, you know, the best horse doesn't always win. And we got a great trip by a great jockey, and rest is history.
And I'm sorry Jerry wasn't able to join us here in the briefing room, but did you get a chance to exchange a few words with him after the race? What was his reaction?
Sure did. He was more confident than I was. I was just a little nervous. But anyway, Jerry has done a great job. I've never had a 2-year-old other than old-fashioned, you know, that ran early and ran in stakes. And now we've won 3 grade 1s and a maiden. When he told me he wanted to run in this grade 1 after I said, Jerry, I usually don't do that. You know, don't you think we ought to run her in A? He said, you got the best horse on the backside. So we did.
Very good. And now let's hear a little bit of that background of how you acquired this filly. I'd like to hear that entire origin story, if you don't mind, for us.
Well, Tom had gone up to Saratoga before I had, and he had a short list that he wanted to show me, and this was one of them. And Tom loved this horse, and I loved it, and he.
You'll be getting a lot of those, I imagine.
You know, she bought about close to what I was willing to pay for her, but I might have paid another $100,000. But we were fortunate enough to get her for $400 because she was, you know, great pedigree, and you know, she looked the part as good as anything.
And what else stood out about her when you first laid eyes on this filly?
I think most everybody that's really qualified to go look at horses have the same criteria, probably about their balance and so on and so forth. But I think it's more important how everything fits together. You know, they can have this part and that part, but they all have to fit together really well. And I put a lot of emphasis on their walk, and I think to have a really good walk, they have to have all the parts that do fit together. And also there are intangibles that we look at as well. I mean, the how they handle the pressure of the sail. A lot of people think, well, that's not much. Well, it is. I look at it like it's the first time in the big city, and they have to handle that pressure because, as we know, there's a lot of pressure more along the way. And, excuse me.
You want me to turn it off?
So that is really key. There's a lot of intangible. I mean, you look at this filly, her eye and how she handled everything. I mean, when those good horses come out of the stall, most of them, they show really well. They adapt very quickly to their environment, and they're not timid or shy about anything that goes on. So there's a lot of intangible, and I have to compliment Rick. I mean, I make my short list, and most of the time it's a very short list. And very seldom have we ever disagreed on a horse that we really, really like. There's some horses maybe that are maybe on the fringe that we can't just quite see eye to eye. But the really good ones like this one and some of the other ones like Havity Grace or some of these other ones, we have never disagreed on. So Rick has a good eye for a horse too when I show him this list.
Very good. Well, we have a few questions more about the background, but let me check with the media in the room and see if there's more on the race.
Right. 2 questions. First for Tom, did you when you talk about those really good ones that you can identify, was there something extra about her that you had this, kind of, that she might be that freakish freak, that.
I don't think anybody can really predict that any horse is going to be this good. I mean, I would never try to say that it's going to be this good. The only thing I can do is say I think this is a really good horse, but try to predict this is going to be a horse with this quality. I don't think anybody can predict that, really. She just has everything we're looking for, and she fits all everything we're looking for, and exceeded a lot of those, and especially exceeded them in the how she handles her pressure. I keep emphasizing that, but that is so important with these great horses that they're very confident in everything they do, and she's been like that ever from the word go. So, and you can see how she was in the paddock and all. She's just very confident about everything she does. So, and I think one of the reasons they're very confident about that because they're very athletic and it's not a pressure for them. That they're not really that stressed.
And Tom, not too frequently, he has a word he used, a couple words he said, "This is a must-have." That means I'm not allowed to stop bidding until we own it.
So this was a must-have?
No, this wasn't a must-have.
No, she was very close, and I use that term very rarely. The only one really and recently was Haverty Grace. I mean, Rick and I both agree about that one. And the reason is, and of course, I don't claim to know everything, and there's a lot of things that we don't know, but those really, really top horses, there's just not many of them out there. I don't care what sales you go to. The really top ones, they're very thin. So,
and then, Mr. Porter, I asked you this week about, thinking about the Oaks, but after watching that, do you think about the Derby?
Well, I think we're a long way off from thinking about that, but, she's big enough, and she showed that she's talented enough, but we'd have to see how she stacks up with the number with the rags and Thoroughgraph, and look all the numbers to make sure that she could win the race. When we looked at 8 bells, we entered both the Derby and the Oaks, but we drew the outside post in the. We drew 19 or 20 in the Derby, and we drew the 5 in outside in the Oaks, 5 hole in lead. So I said, "Larry, let's go for it." And he says, "We got it." But the rest of the story.
Did Mike Smith share anything with you all after the race? Did you get a chance to talk to him on the way back up the tunnel or anything?
Yeah, Mike and I, we were just talking about how talented she is. Mike just really loves this horse. He calls me every week, tell me what's going on, and if it works, he goes. The greatest thing I can tell you is about this horse and Mike Smith is that about 3 or 4 jockeys over here Keeneland, and Larry Jones was standing by, and one of the people said, "How good is that Songbird?" And Mike said, "Well, I'll tell you how good she is. I was going to retire, but I'm not retiring until she retires." You can't say anything better about the horse than that.
Yeah, I'll share one other thing about Mike. I don't know if everybody saw the tweet he put out last night, but it said something, I'm not quoting him exactly, but something to the fact that this is his love of life right now, Songbird, and then you might see something special tomorrow, which I think we did.
I believe we did. One from Tom.
Yeah.
How much did she win by? Does anybody know?
5.5. 5.5 lengths.
5.5.
This is what I want to tell you. Every time Songbird runs and wins, it's music to your ears. But
Yes,
here
it is.
here is my question. Given how brilliant, how fast she is, does she pretty much take care of herself? Is she an easy filly to train?
Well, Jerry just talks about what a great mind she has, and she's easy to train, and Mike works her every time, and I think she's an easy horse to train.
Rick, for those that haven't heard, can you just relay the story of Songbird's name and the inspiration from Ava Cassidy?
Yes, my assistant, Victoria Keith, who's been with me 10, 11 years, and I couldn't do without. But anyway, she loves to get into this, you know, the stories. So she found out that the song Songbird was originally done by Fleetwood Mac. But then she found out this story about Eva Cassidy, who was 33 years old when she died of melanoma. And she was a very shy person, but she really wasn't very popular. Nobody knew anything about her. I still didn't know anything about her, but when she was living in England, she did a recording and people loved it, and you know, she became very popular, but she didn't live much long. But she did a great album of Songbird. Everybody ought to listen to it. There's some great music on there, including Songbird.
All right, well, gentlemen, congratulations. We appreciate your time. Songbird is the winner of the 14 Hands Winery Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies. We appreciate your time.
Thank you very much.
Hopefully we'll see you on the first Friday in May.
Well,
One of those days.
Right, or Saturday.
I keep getting